The Duchess of Sussex has arrived in Cheshire with the Queen for a masterclass in how to conduct royal engagements, just a month after her wedding. The former actress enjoyed an inaugural overnight trip on the royal train with the Queen, ahead of her first day of engagements with the monarch, and arrived at Runcorn station this morning after travelling up from London with the head of state on the distinctive burgundy liveried locomotive. It was around 10 months after her own nuptials before the Duchess of Cambridge undertook a similar day of events, and will no doubt be viewed as a sign of royal confidence in the former actress. The Queen has been on the throne for 66 years and has conducted tens of thousands of public engagements, shaking hundreds of thousands of hands along the way. Former actress Meghan couldn't resist sporting another creation by her wedding designer Givenchy, and looked elegant in the cream-fitted dress with a cape feature at the shoulders, nipped in at the waist with a black belt, carrying a simple black bag by the same designer. Her Majesty was vibrant as ever in a lime green ensemble by Stuart Parvin and hat by Rachel Trevor Morgan. The monarch and her son's granddaughter seemed to be getting on famously, with Meghan giggling and whispering into the Queen's ear while watching a children's performance at the opening of a new bridge across the River Mersey in Widnes, Cheshire. The royal visitors chatted to Halton Council officials, architects and engineers and others involved in the 25-year project to create the new toll bridge across the Mersey between Widnes and Runcorn. "It's a magnificent bridge," Meghan told them before joining the Queen on a stage to watch a dance performance by local schoolchildren celebrating 1,000 years of crossings across the river. The royal visitors lapped it up, smiling and chatting to each other and to dignitaries as they watched children dance to a 7-minute medley of music that included Edgar's March Pomp and Circumstance and the Beatles' Can't Buy Me Love. The Duchess was absolutely interested in the dance performance and in the history of the various bridges that have crossed the river, said David Parr, Halton Council's chief executive. Before they left, the Queen and Meghan accepted posies from two schoolgirls, Savannah Cafferty, 11, and Alarni Wayne, who was celebrating her 8th birthday. "They both wished me happy birthday," said an excited Alarni. Savannah, smiling afterwards, said, "I never thought I'd get the chance to meet the Duchess." The Queen and Meghan both praised the children's dance performance, in the grounds of a science museum half a mile from the bridge, when they spoke to Andrew Curfey, whose theatre company had brought 80 children aged 5 to 18 from 9 local schools together to create their show, entitled Bringing Communities Together. "It's been a massive treat, a massive buzz for us all," Mr. Curfey, 32, said. They both wanted to talk. The Queen said she really enjoyed it, but the best hit was just before they left with Meghan. "She turned back and said to me, 'The children did great by the way.'" Curfey said of Meghan, "She was really calm considering it was her first official engagement with the boss. She is with the boss, so no pressure." As the pair disembarked from the royal train this morning, they were greeted by the Lord Lieutenant of Cheshire, David Briggs, who told the Duchess, "I understand it is your first trip to the north of England." Next stop for the royals was a visit to the Storyhouse Theatre Complex in Chester, which features a library and performing arts spaces. The visit began with a minute's silence on the street outside to mark the first anniversary of the Grenfell Tower disaster, after arriving to tumultuous scene events of flag-waving, cheering crowds. Both women stood on the steps to the theatre, with their heads bowed as a klaxon sounded. Inside they watched as a group of children from Ashgrove Farm Day Nursery took part in an enthusiastic rendition of The Wheels on the Bus. The Queen smiled and pointed at little Shrian, too, for whom the excitement had been too much. He had fallen asleep in one of the staff's arms. They also met a group of Syrian refugees engaged in a craft project. On their way to their second performance of the day, the Queen and the Duchess stopped off to speak to a group of digital buddies, a group of young volunteers helping elder members of the local community get to grips with technology in the library area. Frank Samuel, a reluctant over 50, told her he was keen to learn about computing as he didn't want to get left behind. "Everything uses these things nowadays," he said to her, waving to his computer. "Yes, even the bridge I was just at," laughed the Queen, referring to the toll bridge she had opened. "She had a bit of a giggle about that," said Mr. Samuel. She also spoke to Sarah Christian, 58, who was being helped by Jade Hughes, 20, to look at photographs of her old school online on iPad. The Queen said it was much easier to swipe along on these things to look at photographs than the photograph albums she has, Jade said. She also told Graham Haslett, 62, who had come in to learn about how to use his new smartphone, "It must be very confusing." Meghan added, "It's not easy for everyone to do that." The royal visitors watched a performance by Fallen Angels, a dance theater company for people recovering from addiction. "Wonderful. That must help," she remarked. She and Meghan then moved into the theater to watch a medley of songs from Storyhouse's latest production, A Little Night Music, as well as a performance by actors from Swallow and Amazons and children from schools including Cherry Grove, Queen's School and St. Clair's. As they left they were handed posies by Lilia Fagan 7, from Newton Primary School and Ania and Egan Simon, 6, from Oldfield Primary. Lilia was fizzing with excitement afterward. The Queen said Newton had the smartest blazers. "I can't believe it." Storyhouse is a pioneering new theater and library complex that has attracted more than 1 million visitors in its first year of opening. It has become a hub for the local community. The Queen unveiled a plaque to mark its opening, watched by the Duchess, no doubt keen to learn from the best in the business. Earlier in the day Phil Redmond, the creator of television dramas such as Brookside, Grange Hill, and Hollyoaks, was introduced to the Duchess with his wife Alexis, the High Sheriff of Cheshire. "I wondered if she wanted a part in Hollyoaks," he said. "She will have to go through the audition process like everyone else." He was joking and admitted their conversation has been more about how nice it was to see the Duchess with the Queen in Widnes at a ceremony marking the opening of the new £1.86 billion Mersey Getaway Bridge over the Mersey. "I didn't ask her, but there is a lunch to come," he said. "It's a big day for Cheshire." The Queen and Meghan arrived in Runcorn by train this morning, and as they disembarked they were greeted by the Lord Lieutenant of Cheshire, David Briggs, who told the Duchess, "I understand it is your first trip to the north of England." She replied, "That's correct. I'm very happy to be here." The Queen's outfit also appeared to be a subtle tribute to the victims after green became a symbol of remembrance for those affected by the fire. Inside, the pair met with a Syrian settlement group learning craftworks and watch a performance by Fallen Angels, a dance theater company for people recovering from addiction, before moving to watch a medley of songs from the theater's latest production, A Little Night Music. Before they left they were treated to a performance by local schoolchildren alongside actors from Swallow and Amazons, and the monarch unveiled her second plaque of the day to mark the Storyhouse's official opening. No royal visit would be complete without a walkabout, and although Meghan has done a number of these already, she will join the Queen for a short meet and greet on their way to nearby Chester Town Hall for a civic lunch. Her nerves, and lack of experience in the minutiae of royal protocol, were in evidence as they prepared to get into the Queen's Bentley awaiting them in the station car park. There was a moment of confusion as the Duchess appeared unsure who should get into the car first. "What is your preference?" she asked the Queen. "You go first," said the Queen. "Oh okay," said the Duchess. On board the royal train, the monarch has invited Meghan to accompany her for a day of engagement today, and Mail Online understands that, given the distances involved, the train set off yesterday, arriving at Runcorn station this morning. While the Queen always tends to make long-distance journeys on her train overnight, it will be quite the eye-opener for her new granddaughter-in-law. The locomotive consists of 9 carriages in total, however, these are often reduced to 7 depending on the number of people traveling, and Her Majesty is said to describe it as one of the few places where she can relax in total privacy. At over 150 years old it is the only private, non-commercial train service catering to one family still in operation in the UK, and these photos offer a rare glimpse into Britain's most exclusive railway service. Much of the 9-carriage train currently in service dates back to 1977 when it was extensively used during the Silver Jubilee tours, and while a novel experience, it is terribly dated and not entirely luxurious. In fact, photographs of inside the train show how it is now a lot more functional, in contrast to the plush interiors that it used to boast in its glamorous heyday. This comes after criticism over the expense of the royal train, which cost taxpayers £900,000 in 2016. Her Majesty's personal saloon is 75 feet long and fitted with secondary air suspension, giving passengers an exceptionally smooth and comfortable ride. It has a bedroom, decorated in light pastel shades, with a 3-feet-wide single bed in one corner. There are no double beds on the royal train, made up with cotton sheets and woolen blankets. While Prince Philip's pillows are plain, the Queen's are trimmed with lace, with a small royal cipher in one corner. The ceiling has subdued strip lighting and there are several reading lamps near the bed. The adjoining bathroom has a full-size bath, but the fittings are modest and functional. The train operators make sure the carriages are not crossing any bumpy points just after 7:30 am, that could make the water slop around when the Queen is taking her bath. The train's speed is always lower than the normal maximum for any route. The sitting room has a sofa with hand-stitched velvet cushions, armchairs and a small dining table where the Queen and Prince Philip have breakfast. The table can be extended to seat 6 people. There is also a desk in one corner where Her Majesty works on her official papers. Although she has enjoyed several meetings with the Queen and spent time with her at Windsor Castle, the overnight journey was unprecedented for Meghan. The journey provided the Queen a chance to spend some quality time with Harry's new bride, with relatively few interruptions. In 2016, royals travelled on the distinctive livery train just 14 times at a cost of £900,000 to taxpayers. Buckingham Palace officials admit it is expensive, but say the Queen, 92, finds it more comfortable to use overnight on long-distance journeys. The train came into existence during the reign of Queen Victoria, who was the first reigning sovereign to make a train journey when she travelled from Slough to London Paddington on June 13, 1842. In 1869 she commissioned a special pair of coaches at a cost of £1,800, a considerable sum in those days. Victoria remains to this day the only monarch to have paid with her own money for royal carriages to be built. When her son succeeded to the throne as Edward VII, he ordered a completely new royal train in the second year of his reign, 1902, with the instructions that it is to be as much like the royal yacht as possible. The interior had bedrooms, dressing rooms, day rooms and a smoking room. It boasted 3-speed electric fans, electric radiators and cookers and even an electric cigar lighter. The King's favorite was his smoking room, which was manned by 2 liveried footmen, one just to light His Majesty's cigars and the other to adjust the curtains and windows in case the sunlight was too strong, or fresh air was required. His son and successor, George V, had the distinction of installing the first bath on a train anywhere in the world. While Queen Victoria's was the first train in the world to have a lavatory installed on board, in 1850, at the suggestion of Prince Albert, only the Prince Consort used it in the early days of royal progress. Members of the entourage who invariably accompanied the Queen had to wait until the train stopped and then use public lavatories. While the train is fitted with several sleeper carriages, the locomotive never travels through the night, instead making stops at secret locations away from the main line so that the royal passengers can sleep uninterrupted. The overnight stops are usually made about an hour's traveling time from the final destination. This means the royals are able to rise, bathe, dress, have a leisurely breakfast and then be briefed by their private secretary on the day's program as the train completes its journey. Arrivals are usually timed so that they do not disrupt any normal rail schedules. The appearance of the Queen's current saloon is a long way from the velvet interiors and plush furnishings of carriages of the Victorian era.